Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kaylee Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies.
Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur podcast. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Niki Hutchison, who is a marketing strategist. And in today's episode, we're going to be diving into how to use your marketing to make your success inevitable. Niki, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you, Kaylee.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And I'm really excited to dive into this topic, this conversation. I know this is going to support and help so many of our listeners because marketing is one of those topics, I think, which is talked about a lot. And it's one of those buzzwords and keywords that we hear all of the time in business. But actually, it's so important that we understand exactly what marketing is and how to use it effectively in business. So I'm really excited to be diving in today, but I think it'll be really good for you to do a little bit of an introduction properly to yourself, to our audience, who you are, and ultimately how you got to where you are today.
Okay, thank you. So I was one of those really lucky people who knew exactly what I wanted to do from a very young age. So I actually did my first work experience in the strategy department of an advertising agency when I was 14.
Wow.
And I was absolutely sold. I found it really fascinating. I mean, it was nerve-wracking. I had to go out and speak to people on the streets, which at 14 is pretty terrifying. But I was fascinated by how advertising and marketing could influence behavior and buying decisions and the way that people interact and the things that they do. And I thought, this is for me. So I went on to study up to postgrad level advertising strategy. And then I worked in agencies for most of my career. I left agencies in 2010, and when I had my second daughter, and I started my own first business, which had technically nothing to do with marketing. It was a kids hip hop dance company.
Oh, wow.
But it came from having worked in an agency in my final 2 years on a project on behalf of the government looking into how to reduce antisocial behaviour amongst children and young people. And the findings were that they needed an activity that they love and a really strong role model. And I thought, I'm going on mat leave. I'm not going back to work in agencies, not always the friendliest of places for working mothers. And I'm going to start this business that's going to make a difference. And then I realised, hang on, it's marketing that has enabled me to grow this business. Let's get back into marketing about 5 years after that.
Oh, fantastic. So basically you were into the kind of the marketing side of things and, you know, from a very young age, from the age of 14, which is fantastic. So obviously it's always been something that has really fascinated you and something that you're really interested in. So let's talk about marketing as a whole, first of all. And something that I know we had a conversation before, obviously recording this podcast, but something that you said to me is all about sort of success and marketing and making success inevitable. So what does that mean, first of all, in the context of marketing?
So this is because a lot of business owners, I mean, you and I have had this conversation already, but a lot of business owners don't want to do the marketing side of things. And that is fair enough. You know, I completely understand that. Most people don't go into business for themselves because they want to spend all day promoting that business. They want to be doing that business. They want to be helping people in whatever way they've decided to do that. So this kind of space where business owners feel maybe a little bit duped, actually. You know, they're thinking, oh, I've started this business because I want to do this thing that I love. And you're telling me that I have to do marketing all the time. And I'm not saying you have to do marketing all the time, but it is a truth that we can't get away from, that if we want this business that we love, and if we want to be able to help all these people, we've got to tell them about the business first. They need to be able to find us. So making your success inevitable, and everybody's success will look different. Of course, your idea of success is different from mine, and all the listeners will have their own idea. But whatever your success looks like, you need enough people to know about your business so that you can build that business in the way that you want to and help them in the way that you want to. And if they don't know about you, that's impossible.
Absolutely. You know, I think this is definitely a really interesting point and conversation around this concept of, you know, I mean, first of all, like you said, people want to do business. They want to do what they've started their business for. And actually the marketing side of things, I feel like people sort of potentially sometimes see this as a completely separate job. Well, to an extent, it can be if you've got a big team and you can delegate, etc. But when we are entrepreneurs, and I know a lot of my listeners will be entrepreneurs who are either a one-man band or they will have a very small team of maybe 1 or 2 people, marketing is a massive part of our business and but a business success, like you said. And the visibility piece, I think people seeing and hearing and understanding and knowing who you are is so, so important. And I do think in the online space at the moment, I think a lot of people are kind of feeling as if they've got to be on all the time, got to be pushing, got to be chasing their next client or their next sale. And I know that with marketing, you know, we've got to be strategic about this, because you could absolutely be doing that. You could be, you know, putting yourself into a position where you're feeling stressed and anxious and overwhelmed all the time, trying to say, where's that next client coming from? Whereas actually, if you have a really simple strategy that will support you and help you with that, then it can obviously be very, very different. So can we talk a little bit about your inevitable success method? Because I know this is something that is yours, and I would love for you, if you're happy to do so, to share a little bit with our audience, because I'm sure this will help so many people with how they approach marketing for their businesses.
Of course. And I really love what you're saying about, you know, people feeling that they have to be always on and all that kind of thing, especially if you don't have a team. And marketing, obviously, it's not just one thing. There are so many, and I talk about a multi-channel marketing strategy because so many people think, you know, the immediate thought is, oh, social media, I've got to be on social media. But actually, there are so many different things that we can be doing, and we need to be doing more than one thing so that we are not always being reactive, and so that we can be more proactive and planned and strategic, like you say. So part of that is about where you start from. So whenever we're working with clients, and I say we because we have an agency, it's actually called the Enjoy Marketing Agency because hardly anybody does, and I really want them to. So we try and help them too. It is about where you start, and it's not starting by shouting on social media. It's starting by being quite thoughtful and from this place of, who am I? Now, you won't hear me say this very often because I'm always encouraging people to put themselves in the shoes of their ideal client and what's in it for them. But before you do that, it's about positioning yourself. So the inevitable success method that you're talking about, it starts with brand positioning, then it moves into messaging, and then it moves into this intersection really between marketing and sales, which is your visibility, leads, and sales. Lots of people start at the visibility point and they think, I just need to get myself out there. But if you haven't done the thoughtful bit at the start, if you haven't spent that time thinking, who am I? What am I offering? What do I stand for? What are my brand values? What's my personality, my tone of voice? We've got to get that bit right first. Then we've got to think, what is the messaging that's going to engage my ideal clients? What do they need to hear from me today and in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? So we start with the brand positioning before we move into the messaging. And then once we've got those pieces in place, we can move into the visibility, leads, and sales, which is the real action stations section of the method. And that means that we're not wasting any time, energy. We're not throwing spaghetti at the wall is a phrase that's often used in ad agencies, because we don't want to be doing that. We want to be very, very strategic and very targeted and saying the things that we understand people need to hear. So my background in agencies, as a strategist, you spend about 50% of your time out on the road, speaking to people and doing market research. I think that sounds really boring. The phrase market research, nobody gets excited by that. It's not sexy. So I talk about going detective mode, and you can go detective mode in your own business and externally as well, so that you can get this really rounded picture of what you have to offer and how that fits in with what people need today. And it's something that you need to be doing regularly, is asking the audience, essentially. And then we come from this really strong position where we're in the right place, we're saying the right things, and then when we start talking about what we have to offer, people are ready to listen.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think people massively underestimate market research. It's such a huge thing, isn't it? To understand the market, to understand the climate, to really see what your ideal clients want, what they need, where they are. Like, ultimately, all of that is key information and data that we need in order to move things forwards.
Completely.
Which I think is so important, isn't it? So important. And you said, as part of your method there, something that I'd love to kind of dive into a little bit further is the brand positioning. So I know positioning is so important, so important. And again, I feel as if sometimes it's sort of skipped over quite often. And people like to rush to the sales. They like to rush to here's the offer. Let's make some money. Let's make some sales and crack on with it, right? But actually, the market research is really important before you do anything. And then obviously really building that brand positioning and understanding who you or your brand is or are in the market, right? So why is that so important? Let's talk a little bit more about this brand positioning and what that actually consists of.
Yeah, love to. So the reason that it's so important is that if you don't understand who you are, what you offer. And when I say you, it could be you. If it's a founder-led brand, it could be the business. Who you are and what you offer, then you're just kind of going out with your fingers crossed, hoping for the best. Whereas if you really understand and have taken the time and the care to do that research, to go detective mode, then you're going to get results faster. People are going to understand more quickly why they need you and not the person next to you. So I use a tool called the brand wheel. It's not mine, but it's something that we used on every client in every agency that I worked in throughout my career. And it's made up of, it's basically to help you find your brand positioning. So you identify your brand values. And again, you can be asking people, if you're not sure what your brand values are, you can be asking people, what do you think I stand for? And you can be doing the market research and looking at, okay, who else is in my niche and what do they stand for? Does that align with me in my business, or am I slightly different? We all are slightly different, but it's about really defining what that difference is and then presenting it in a way that is of interest to people. So we cover brand values, benefits. Why should somebody choose you? What are they going to get if they give you their money? What are they going to get in return? And then what evidence do we have that those benefits are actually true? So this is something that a lot of people struggle with when we first work on the brand wheel is, okay, the benefits are maybe... I have a program called Fully Booked Bootcamp. And so one of the benefits might be, I'm going to take you from overlooked to fully booked. Okay, great. What evidence have you got of that?
Yes.
Is this just a claim that you're making? Oh no, well, actually, I've gone detective mode and I've found that 3 years after going through Fully Booked Bootcamp, over 91% of businesses are still in business compared to the UK national average of 40%. That is evidence. Yeah. So that's the level of evidence that I'm talking about. If you haven't been in business for long, or you don't have the volume of clients maybe to survey for that kind of thing, then we can rely on things like testimonials. But I would encourage people to really dig into those testimonials and try and spot the commonalities. So, for example, the name of that program, which is one of the foundational programs for more early stage businesses, the name of that program, Fully Booked Bootcamp, and this idea of from overlooked to fully booked came from looking at testimonials from previous one-to-one clients before I launched that group program. And they were saying when I started working with Niki, I didn't have enough clients. And by the time we finished, I was fully booked. So there's always evidence that you can gather that's going to fit. It's going to align and it's going to prove those benefits that you're claiming. And that's what people want, especially today, isn't it? They need evidence.
Yeah, they need the evidence. Obviously, with the whole trust concept, trust has always been a massive thing. Of course, it has for anything to do with marketing and sales. I really like that approach, though. I really like that approach in terms of how, you really lean into the positioning with your clients and supporting them with that, because I do think it's a hard thing to do when a lot of people do struggle. And it's the same for my clients. I know, obviously, we approach it in a different way, but at the end of the day, positioning is positioning. And even when I sort of say to my clients, what is the one thing that people can know you for, and it is hard. It's sometimes hard. So I think it's
very hard
to absolutely to be able to establish it, of course. But I really like the process that you use there to help people. So for those listening, take some notes. I'm sure rewind this podcast and listen to what Niki shared there, because it's a really good way of approaching positioning, and because that is something that people do struggle with.
And it's really hard to do when you are in it, don't you think?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. It's so easy to see it. I mean, I know you and I specialize in this, so it's easy to see it for other people. But I do believe that, absolutely. And I know people as well who have shifted their whole messaging because they've shifted their niche and things like that. But I think if you do the work fast and actually really focus on this, it will then support them in having that kind of really solid positioning.
100%. And we were on the agency side, we quite often work with clients who maybe want to create a new website, or they want to do a rebrand, or they want to do a launch. And we always start with their positioning, because you've got to have these solid foundations in place, haven't you? Before we get to that sales, we can't get the sales without having the foundations in place.
Absolutely. I love the inevitable success method. That's right, isn't it? And it just sounds incredible. And thank you so much for sharing more about that. And I'm sure our listeners will be able to find out more. And I will share at the end of the podcast episode exactly where they can find you.
Thank you.
But let's talk more about marketing, because marketing in general, I know that there will be some mistakes, some trends, some kind of changes over time that you have seen, and you will know the best ways to approach marketing for our listeners, for sure. But let's start talking about some mistakes. What would you say are the biggest mistakes that you see people making when it comes to marketing that is stopping them from making more sales?
Interesting. So the biggest mistake that I see today is relying on social media.
Oh,
we can't.
I like this. Tell us more.
So when clients come and I'll say, what have you been doing? You need more sales. So what have you been doing to generate those? Oh, well, I've been posting on my Instagram and my Facebook and my TikTok and my LinkedIn or whatever. Yeah. Okay, my heart kind of sinks a little bit, because that's your own channels. So we can't afford to rely on our own channels anymore today. We need to be thinking bigger, and we need to be thinking, who else has got an audience that I can get in front of? Or how can I engage my own audience, but in more creative ways? So somebody came on, I host a call in my membership every week, and somebody came on this week and said, I want to get in front of this. She knew exactly who she wanted to get in front of. I want to get in front of this certain corporate. How am I going to get their attention? Would you recommend that I send an email? Absolutely not. I would not recommend that you send an email. I would recommend that you go detective mode. You probably use LinkedIn. Find out as much as you can about this person. You might even find out, maybe they work in the office certain days a week. Everything's changing in corporate, isn't it? In terms of how often people are there. And then I would be trying to get to that person at their desk. So I would probably be going old school. And I talk a lot about the combination of digital marketing methods and traditional marketing methods. So direct mail is having a moment again. If you think about the stuff that you get through the mail today that makes it to your desk, it's really dull, isn't it? It's probably the letters from HMRC, reminders from Companies House. It's not exciting. So we're kind of conditioned to think, oh yeah, mail, pretty boring. So imagine if we could create something to reach our ideal client within that stack of really boring mail, but we created something that was really exciting and really highly relevant to them at that moment, captured their attention. Oh, we'd done all of our positioning work. We had a really strong message that was absolutely aligned, was definitely going to create some kind of emotional response, possibly make them laugh or, make them feel nostalgic or something. Imagine the impact that that's going to have compared to a post on social media. And I'm definitely not saying don't use social media, but I love to challenge people to do more, to think, okay, social media is the absolute baseline. It's not really going to generate incredible results unless we spend a lot of money on paid ads, unless we spend a lot of time on creating content. And it's going to take a while for all of that to if we're talking solopreneurs, people with small teams, unless they've got those skill sets in-house, it's going to take a long time for people to learn those and get the results that they're looking for. Let's create something that is going to have huge impact in a shorter space of time, give us those results, and make sure that that is backed up by a really consistent online presence so that whatever they see landing on their desk, just one example, then when they go and check you out on your socials, they are reassured by what they see. Oh, yes, this person is doing what they say they're doing. So consistency, that's another mistake that I see, is people kind of saying one thing on one channel and looking quite different on another channel. Let's make everything straightforward, consistent and aligned, and we'll get results more quickly.
Yeah, I absolutely love that result. That advice that you've given. And I do think, the whole social media thing, and we all know it, back in the day of 2020, 2021, you could, because of the circumstances of the world, build, I don't even want to say a business, but you could make sales directly from social media very quickly. That was a thing. But the reality is we're in 2026, time has moved on. But also, if we look at the basic concept of business, we can't just rely on one stream for anything. Like, it just doesn't work in that way. So I absolutely agree with you. We've got to really make sure that people are considering all aspects of that and really thinking about their marketing, not just being on social media, because who wants to spend every hour of every day? Yeah, I don't.
No.
I'd much rather be making impact or spending time with my family, and that's the reality of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think something that I'm working on really hard this year is customer experience.
Yes.
And people often don't think about that as being part of marketing, but it absolutely is, isn't it? And I know that you're really great at this as well. I think it's gaining in importance as people more, the online space is getting busier. Let's take events, for example. More and more people are hosting in-person events because we all know that that's exploding this year. Everybody wants that connection. But in-person events are not all created equal. So I've been hosting in-person events since 2017 for this business, and actually for years before that. But I want to improve my events this year. I want to give everybody an absolutely exceptional experience. And we get phenomenal feedback on our events, but all of us in business, we want to level up, don't we? We don't just want to do the same thing again and again. And for me, leveling up starts with leveling up the services that we're delivering and the way that we're delivering those and the customer experience.
Yeah, they're amazing. I love in-person events as well. I think it's such a great, I won't say addition, but some people really do, absolutely use events as one of their main drivers. And I think it's such a great opportunity as well to get more people in the room. And, like you said, the experience that they have from entering to when they leave, and actually post that as well, I think is really, really important. So I definitely think client experience or customer experience is absolutely vital. And I do think people miss a trick with this. I know obviously it links to marketing, but I think people miss a massive trick, because I think a lot of people, and I used to do this is actually something I'm guilty of. Once you've made the sale, yes, you will look after that client, but then you're already then thinking, well, I need to find my next client now. I need to find my next client. Whereas actually the reality of it is, again, if we look at retention and we look at how can we continue to support this individual with X, Y, and Z, and keep them in our world and help them further, it's so much easier to sell in that way, isn't it? Than consistently looking for new people all the time.
Completely, yeah. And people might not think that this is marketing, but I can say, I'm sure that my accountant has a laugh every time I put in my, I upload my receipts or whatever. But honestly, pretty much everything is classified as marketing, because everything that I do in my business is trying to market my business. Yeah. So we hired a community manager for my membership this year, and she's coming we're doing an in-person meetup in Newcastle the day before Atomicon, big digital marketing conference in June. And she's coming to that event with me because I want to make sure that the connection that she's got with the members online is carried through into offline. I see that as marketing, because it's her job to make sure, and mine, of course, but that's why I want her with me, is to make sure that all of our members have a great experience and get to grow their relationship with her. She's got this lovely relationship with them online, and I want to make sure that continues in person as well. That to me is marketing.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. It's all marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
All marketing. It's all part of it, and part of, again, supporting and continuing to provide support, knowledge, whatever it is that we can really help people with. So I 100% agree. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think one of the other questions I would love to ask you, Niki, is something that I'm very passionate about, which is sustainability. I think with businesses, if we're not planning for the future, if we're not looking at sustainability, and obviously growth, we're again setting ourselves up for failure, because I think so many people will look for the next sale. And again, I used to be guilty of this, don't get me wrong, but the next sale and the next month and this, that, and the other. Whereas actually the reality is we should be looking 12 months to 3 years to 5 years and beyond. What is your advice on this around marketing success? How can people set themselves up to ensure that their business grows and creates that sustainability?
Such a great question. And again, like you, it's not something that I've always focused on. I think it's very difficult to focus on the long term when you first set up in business, isn't it? But definitely something that needs to change, and something that, again, evolves as your business grows and as you grow as a business leader. So in terms of marketing, this is, again, it goes back to the inevitable success method, where we're not just starting at the visibility point. We're starting much earlier than that and thinking, what do I want this business to become? So whenever I'm working with clients, we always start with the business objective. So we set the business objective first, and then we move into the marketing objectives. Okay, how are we going to leverage marketing to help us achieve those objectives? And that obviously aligns with what you want in your business as well. Now, this is advice that's given often when it comes to business. Maybe it's about hiring your first hire, or, jumping before you're ready. But it's the same thing with marketing. I would say that if you have tested a specific marketing method, marketing channel, and it's working well for you, that is brilliant. But try not to stop there, because marketing changes all the time. So let's get ourselves into a position where we've either got the team members or we're using the tools. We can leverage AI so much. That's something that we want to do better this year, in terms of supporting our clients for efficiencies. But let's look at what's working in our marketing right now, and let's set that up so that it can run. And then let's be looking at what do we need to bring in next, if we're looking to grow. Of course, this is assuming that everyone wants to be on a growth trajectory. But yeah, it's about not resting on our laurels and always either bringing in the support or subscribing to the right blogs, being within the right communities where you can leverage other people's time who are going detective mode on your behalf. And you can go, right, okay, this person knows the industry, they've done the work. Let me see what they're saying about it. What do I need to learn from that? And what do I need to implement next? So it's just about never kind of, and that might sound, I don't want this to sound overwhelming to anybody. We can do this slowly. You can go at your own pace, but it is about never sitting still, just like anything in business.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's always the case, isn't it, with, when we figure out or find something that really works, and then we always naturally want to go on to that next thing, don't we? And I don't mean next thing as in just, okay, leave that, let's move on, but build on that and gradually create something that's going to really work. I mean, I do a lot of work around ecosystems and evergreen with my clients. And it's not something that you can just set up and it works in 24 hours, overnight. This is something that you gradually build on. And obviously, if we want sustainability, we've got to look at it again as the whole picture. And like you said, you're going right back to those really, beginning concepts around sort of your core values and what you really want to create and what do the ideal clients want, that then you can start to build on that. And I think it's such great advice. And absolutely, I think everyone, I'm sure, who is listening to this wants a sustainable business, because everyone, I'm sure, is here to have the lifestyle and to create a business that creates big impact and changes people's lives or supports them in certain ways. We've got to always think about certain things, haven't we? And obviously building on that to create that sustainability over time.
Completely. And I need to be better personally about making sure that I'm looking after myself. So advice to anyone listening, but also advice to myself. Let's make sure that we can sustain the pace at which we are running and growing our business for the long term. I just had a conversation. So my husband, John, is my business partner as well. And we just had a conversation over breakfast this morning, and we've got a challenge coming up, and it's the most technically advanced challenge that we've run. And so he had said to me, right, can you take Friday or Monday off this weekend as well as Saturday and Sunday, because you've got to be in a good place for giving this challenge all of your energy. I'm like, yes, okay, I will try. But it's hard, isn't it, when you're ambitious and you want that inevitable success?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. It sounds really exciting, by the way, as well. Really exciting. So I've got one final question for you. If our listeners, because I'm sure they've taken away lots of things from today, and I want to kind of bring everything back to that kind of inevitable success. If someone's listening to this episode and they want to build a business that really does feel inevitable and does create that success, what would you say your one main piece of advice would be?
Oh, I feel like this is like the question my daughter asked my husband last night. What is your favorite song of all time? He was like, how do I even answer that?
I don't know, there's millions.
But one thing to make your success inevitable, I mean, it's very simplistic, but put marketing first. Yes. If you want to achieve anything in your business, you need to tell people about it. And the number of people that you need to tell and the methods that you want to use to tell them are going to be different for everyone according to what those business objectives are. But like I said, my heart sinks when I see someone who's got a really great business idea and I know that it would help loads of people, but they're just not managing to show up and do that consistent marketing week in, week out. Even when it doesn't look like it's working, we've got to keep on testing and tweaking and trying and never give up and never think, oh, it's okay, the right people will find it if they want it, because they just won't. It's on us. So I like to talk about radical responsibility, and I always encourage people to take radical responsibility for your own success. And for me, that starts with thinking, how am I going to plan my marketing to hit those business objectives? What help do I need? Who do I need to follow? And what do I need to do? Like you say, slowly but surely to increase that momentum over time and try and stay consistent so that we're never starting from scratch. Because if we're consistent, and then we stop and then we disappear because we're having a difficult month or whatever, or couple of weeks, then we're starting from scratch again. And that's not what I want. I want everyone to be as consistent, and I don't mean every day, that won't be manageable for everyone, but consistent number of times every single week doing the marketing and the sales activity, then that is going to create inevitable success rather than sending us right back to the beginning.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. Consistency is so important. And like you said, in a way that works for the individual. It doesn't have to necessarily be every day, but it's about being consistent little and often. But it's a great piece of advice. And thank you so, so much, Niki. Honestly, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I really have appreciated your time and obviously sharing with us your incredible method, but also so much knowledge that you have around marketing. It's been really, really great to hear some of your tips and advice that you have for our listeners as well.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. It's been lovely to chat to a fellow business owner all about marketing. Always a joy.
Thank you so much. Where can our listeners find you and connect with you?
So we have a brand new website that will just have launched by the time this episode goes live. So that is nikihutchison.com. And I am Scottish, as you might be able to hear. So it's Hutchison, the Scottish way. So that's the website. I'm also Niki Hutchison on all social platforms. And if this goes out in time, I have the Hidden Revenue Challenge, which starts on Monday, the 8th of June. And that's at nikihutchison.com/revenue.
Amazing. Niki, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Kaylee, for having me.
Thanks to everyone that's tuned in to today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast, and I'll see you all again next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur Podcast with me, your host, Kaylee Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow and scale your dream six-figure or multi-six-figure business, then head to our website now for more information or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.